Hello class, this is Ferras. I was born November 27th, 1994, so my month and year of topic for this presentation is November in 1994. The first historical event that I want to talk about is the launch of Atlantis 13. This happened in early November and is one of Atlantis 13 is seen as one of the very first massive NASA expeditions, and this is in the cornerstone going into the 21st century. A lot of where NASA starts to kind of begin to pick up their steam as a major part of the U.S. and what people kind of end up as an American saying, like, yeah, we have NASA, and NASA does a lot of stuff. So this is one of the first expeditions where they start to begin to turn the corner of being a major player in the U.S. and in the world as space research. The next topic is a sports-related topic. The United Center in Chicago, where the Chicago Bulls play, was first opened. This is significant because aside from Madison Square Garden, which is where the Knicks play in New York, the United Center in Chicago is seen as like a mecca of basketball. That's where Michael Jordan, the all-time greatest basketball player ever to do it, played. So a lot of epic games, a lot of historic victories, a lot of NBA championships have gone through the United Center, and a lot of people kind of see that as a mecca of basketball. It's not on the same level as Madison Square Garden, but it's right there. It's not like tier 2, it's like tier 1.5, and tier 1 being Madison Square Garden. Another interesting sports fact is George Foreman KOs Michael Moore to win the boxing heavyweight championship. This is significant because at this point George Foreman's career it was a great career, but without this win he wouldn't be solidified as one of the greatest of all time, one of the all-time great heavyweights. This KO and consequently winning the heavyweight championship, it solidified him as a U.S. Star. You get all the George Foreman grills and all that kind of stuff. And we wouldn't really have all that without this win. After this, he kind of begins to go on a roll. He defends his championship a few times and goes down as one of the all-time greatest heavyweight boxers in the world. And that also happened early November. Kind of going back to the science kind of realm of things, a chemical element, gerastidum, was discovered at the Helmholtz Center for Heavy Iron Research, and this is in Germany. Where this is kind of significant is we found one of the elements. There's only so many elements in the world that we can find. It's actually scientifically proven that there is a set amount of elements. So this was actually one of the later ones to begin to identify some. There's, I believe, like 8 to 10 unidentified elements. At this point, there was obviously more. So to kind of chalk another one down, knock it off the list, and say, "Hey, we found this other element," is very cool, and it's kind of one of those things. It's very historic because you can't do it again. They just discovered it, and that's it. Like, okay, now we know that that's an element, and we can scientifically prove it. Staying in the science tech realm, it's kind of almost like gossip. Bill Gates decides to drop between $30 to $31 million on buying Leonardo da Vinci's Codex. $30 million in 2016 is an absolutely ridiculous amount of money. $30 million in 1994 is an even absurder amount of money to drop on what pretty much is some old dead dude's notes. And it's kind of cool at the same time, and it's kind of like, wow, I can't believe you actually have $31 million to spend on that. But this is the first that we start to see people splurge on giant historical artifacts. I guess you could call it an artifact, and that kind of stuff. It's cool also because it's one of the first public purchases of Leonardo da Vinci's work, and that, starts to open the realm of these insane auctions that people have, whether it's works of arts or Leonardo da Vinci's inventions, his schematics, his plans. A lot of that was in his codex. On a political side of things, Sweden and Norway both agreed to join the European Union in 1994. This is significant because they are two major Northern European players. Aside from that, it's Finland, and why that's kind of significant again is that solidifies the European Union. After that, there aren't a whole lot of major players left in Europe that aren't a part of the European Union. You can kind of argue Turkey, and we're kind of seeing some of that play out right now. But both of those guys joined the European Union in November of 1994. Kind of going back into entertainment type of news, kind of like with Bill Gates. Star Trek VII, the Generations premieres. That's Star Trek 7, I believe. And again, that's just kind of continuing the Star Trek phenomenon and the kind of the cult of Star Trek. So that's one of the major releases in Star Trek's line of work that spans the 20th century and the 21st century. In a kind of news that comes closer back to home, not really, but it's Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, a convicted serial killer by the name of Jeffrey Dahmer is killed by an inmate in a correctional institution in Wisconsin. That's just kind of like a fun fact. It's like a tidbit. It's not really a fun fact because the guy died. Yes. South Korea, going out to the Far East, celebrates its 600th anniversary of its founding as a country. It's significant because 600 years of being a country. The U.S. is a very young country. It's only 200 and some odd years. So for 600 years, it's pretty significant for Korea. And one of the last things that happens in November, back to entertainment news, the Beatles' first album in 25 years since this point is released, and that is Live at the BBC. And it's kind of when you have these like pop groups and they're hot for like a really, really long time, and then they hit like just a gap of time where they don't do anything. In the Beatles' case, it was a quarter of a century, and for that to kind of come back, it starts the Beatle craze all over again. And it's actually an album that my dad has, one of the very few albums that he has. So that would be a fun fact, not a guy getting clubbed to death by an inmate. And that kind of concludes everything that I was able to research that happened in November 1994. Again, I was born in November 27th, 1994. And I guess another fun fact that I'll just throw in there, my neighbor was actually also born on the same day, November 27th, 1994. And it's kind of crazy because he was born in Syria. I was born here in Minnesota. And we ended up moving from Minnesota to Michigan, from Syria to Michigan, to both live in Canton and share in the same subdivision, live across the street from each other. So that's everything that I found. Thank you, and have a great day.